So my friend Kathy was having this really interesting tweet conversation with Caitlin, who is the national director for Move to Amend, which is about a grassroots movement around the 28th Amendment. And Caitlin asked a very interesting question, and I wanted to do this video because I think it's great conversation around like how do we get more people involved, right? So like with Bernie, he keeps emphasizing that to create the transfer, to transform the country to one that works for the many instead of the few, we need millions of people to get involved in the political process, right? We need a movement of people like getting things done. And one of the biggest issues that we have in America is that half our country doesn't vote. They don't care. They don't show up. They're apathetic, right? We have one of the lowest voter turnouts on earth, and that's not good. It's not good. But it's not surprising that a lot of people don't vote. Now, we have a bunch of other issues tied to that of why it's like hard, it's complicated to vote. Like I actually I believe that voting day should be a day, a national holiday. We should have it off. So there's no excuse for that, right? And then we have like a slew of other issues, which is like a whole other video. But let's just talk about um like on a personal social level, like how do we get more people involved, right? And like how do we get things going and more people participating in the political process. So here's what Caitlin asked. I'll just read it. um, what do you think makes people audacious enough to demand revolution, to believe that we are entitled to transformative change as opposed to merely small crumbs? There's an audacity spark in some people that is merely a flicker in others. So, what do you think this is? And part of her question too is that she wants to find ways, like, are there ways to like reconnect people with this spark? Like, what are things that we can do, right? So, again, this goes back to the heart of grassroots movements. Like, how do we get more people to coalesce, right? How do we get the collective to come together to make change? Because that, again, as Bernie says, we're only going to get change when all of us millions stand together. So I was thinking about a lot of this like for myself because um, in 2015, prior to even knowing that Bernie Sanders existed, I admittedly was an apathetic non-voter. Yeah, one of those people you hate, right? Like, I didn't give a fuck because I was like, whatever. The system is rigged. What's the point? I mean, I was involved in GMO labeling campaigns, and that started when I was a food blogger, and I really cared about organics, and like I was really concerned about, especially like Monsanto and just how they were taking over, and the dangers of glyphosate and Roundup, which we're now seeing. Monsanto is now going down, right? They've lost 3 lawsuits. And they're having to pay over $2 billion, and there's 11,000 more cases in the queue, right? So finally, justice is happening. But yeah, but that was about it. But I still I didn't vote. I wasn't even registered to vote. That's how bad I was. Um, And then I did register to vote in 2012 because California was going to vote. We had a GMO labeling law, so that was enough for me to register to vote. And then after that, I just like lost interest, and I was really disappointed in Obama, especially around the food stuff, because he made all these promises and did not keep any of them. And then what he did with GMO labeling in the end was just it was really disappointing on many levels. So. But then I saw this video with Bernie, and like he activated something in me, and just something like changed, because I went 180. I went from apathetic to like I became one of his delegates, and I got highly involved in the political process, and I became invested, like emotionally, financially, and my time. Like that's all I did for a year. Like I put my business aside and just focused on campaigning for a full year because I just got so into it. And then went to Philadelphia and learned so much about the Democratic Party, how our systems work, elections, change, movements, like all kinds of stuff that happened. So when going back to Caitlin's question, I was thinking, okay, well, like what happened in me, and really, it what came to me actually was reframing the question instead of asking like, what was it in me that like wanted to, thought I was audacious enough to, ask for a revolution, right? When Bernie started talking about political revolution, what in me was audacious to like ask for that? And the question that came to me was really like, well, at what point did I think it was acceptable to be in the status quo? And maybe that's if we reframe the question is instead of like, well, what is it, that some people have a smart, like a flame and some people just have a flicker. Maybe we all have that flame in us, but in some of us, we have this like negative voices or negative side that says like it can't be done, the system is rigged, it's hopeless, it's pointless, why even try, right? That negative stuff, because we have a lot in our country where we have just accepted things. And even now, like I start to look at like why are these things why are we considering them acceptable, right? So and Bernie's what he's proposing, like why are they called radical? Like it makes no sense. Like with healthcare. Okay, healthcare is a human right. At what point did we think that it was okay for mega corporations to turn our healthcare system into a for-profit opportunity based on humans being perpetually sick, right? And then when did we become okay with pharmaceutical companies charging outrageous amounts of money to make profits, right, at the expense of sick people, right, causing them to suffer and go in bankruptcy and go into debt, or even wanting to end their lives because they can't, they can't go to the hospital, they can't afford medical care. Like, when did we become okay with this, right? On top of like a whole other things, like with the climate crisis, like we are in an emergency, we are in a crisis. Why there's not more panic, like, is mind-boggling to me. I sit here and I'm just kind of like, why isn't there more panic? Like, why aren't more people like doing things, right? Why aren't we? I mean, we have all the tech, the money, the means. We can literally stop what we're doing and change everything and save, you know, save like our Earth, because we have less than 12 years, and it's not that the planet will, you know like everything will end. It's life as we know it will end, because we'll have reached this point where irreparable damage is happening and we can't fix it. Then we're gonna have to move into this, like, well, how do we live with this, versus like now we have a chance to stop like the worsening of it, like, and stop like it from just even getting worse, because middle ground strategy is not going to work. It's not. And so, why there's not more panic? So that's another thing. Is it just, are people thinking it's really not that bad? I mean, are we in this level of denial of, well, it's not going to impact me, or or maybe the problem is so big that I feel helpless and powerless, right? It goes back to that script of what's the point? We can't fix it. It's too big, And so maybe that's the stuff that actually like burns out the flicker, or doesn't enable the flicker to grow, right? Or it's not like, we have embers and we throw like lighter fluid on it or something, right? So that it sparks more. Maybe that has always been there, but there's other things that are stronger, right? Like there's wind or rain or snow that comes and like, snuffs, puts out the fire, that was within us. And so maybe that's something to look at is, why do we feel powerless in some situations? Why do we feel like, if we try, it's not going to work, right? Why do we get in this negative loop? And where did we learn to accept this stuff? Or where did we learn to not speak up or get angry or get sad or, you know, or just accept like, okay, this is just how it is. I don't like it, but I'm just gonna accept it. You know, so it's not even apathy. It's just like this level of acceptance of this is just how it is. Um, which a lot of people are living that way, and then there's a lot more people who are like, no, the climate crisis and emergency is sparking that in them, right? And maybe that crisis, the urgency of it, is removing the negative stuff, right? It's like, you know what, I can't afford to feel hopeless anymore, so because now this is greater. So I don't know, perhaps that's something to look at, and maybe it's a two-pronged thing, right? That we look at both, like, well, how do we inspire people, how do we connect them, find ways to, make that flame get bigger, and simultaneously, like, work on healing, or, you know, addressing those issues where we feel powerless and helpless and pointless and apathetic. Like, it's this two-pronged thing, because we do, like me personally, we're in a climate crisis, like, and I think about my nieces, and like what this planet is going to be like when, if they even, when they get to be my age. And you know it gets really sad and depressing. And so, me as their aunt and godmother, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do everything I can, because this is not acceptable to me. So that was one of the things when I found Bernie, is that, um, he was the first politician that actually acknowledged that, yes, the system is rigged against you. It is. So you're not imagining that. But then he offered solutions. But he was like, and this is how we unrig the system, right? We get rid of Citizens United. We demand that candidates don't take money from corporations when they run. We actually focus on legislation that put people first, right? He offered solutions. So for me, that was kind of like he showed me how it's not hopeless, right? But the fact that he acknowledged like some of my core beliefs, like, that was a big deal. So anyway, maybe we need more of that too. Is like, us acknowledging, like, yeah, the system is rigged. Yeah, it's not working for you. So and here's the solutions of how, when millions of us come together, we can change the system, right? We can transform it so it works for the many, not just the few. So I'll put the link to the original tweet. Respond, do a video, do a blog post, like, share your thoughts, because it's a really good discussion to have.